Boss notices scar on his cleaning lady and tearfully throws himself into her arms. It was a busy Monday morning. Caleb was going through the company's annual reports when a soft voice distracted him. "Excuse me, sir. I don't want to disturb you. I'll clean the floor in 5 minutes and leave." Caleb looked up from the file to see a woman, likely in her 50s, standing at the door with cleaning supplies. "Oh God," he gasped. Yes, come in, please." The woman smiled at him and got to her work, but Caleb could barely return to the file. His eyes followed her as she moved across the room. "I'm sorry, but I haven't seen you before." "I'm Caleb, and you are?" "Michelle." "Nice to meet you." "Michelle, it may sound strange, but you look like, oh gosh." "Not again." Caleb jumped to his feet, accidentally spilling the coffee on his laptop. Michelle rushed to his side. "Let me clean that for you." She rolled up her sleeves and began wiping the table when Caleb's gaze was drawn to the oval-shaped scar on her left arm. "There you go. The laptop is clean now." "The scar," he blurted out. "On your arm." "This?" She gave a small smile, looking at her scar. "I wish I could tell you the story behind it, sir. But the thing is, I have amnesia. I barely remember my past. In fact, I started calling myself Michelle after spotting the name on a billboard." Caleb returned to his chair but couldn't take his eyes off her. "And your relatives? Friends?" he asked. "Nobody," Michelle said as she scrubbed the floor. "I lived a gypsy life and finally found this job here in town." Caleb couldn't believe that after all these years, a woman who looked exactly like his late mother was in his office right before her eyes. He had to figure out the reason behind their uncanny resemblance. "You look a lot like my mother, Michelle," he finally told her, and her smile faded. "Yes. My dad said she passed away in a car accident 28 years ago, and I know this will sound crazy, but I'd like to undergo a DNA test with you. Look, no pressure on you. But I'll be really grateful if you agreed." Michelle rose to her feet, lost in thoughts. She was equally curious about her past, as she could barely recall her life, so she agreed to the test. Caleb's mind was plagued with thoughts as they drove to the city hospital. What if Michelle was just his late mother's look-alike? What if the DNA test only revealed how wrong he was? The signal light turned red, halting the traffic. Caleb's mind slowly drifted to the past, to the day 12 years ago when he discovered his mother's old photo. Caleb's father, William, was teaching him how to get rid of wooden planks. And the mischievous, lazy teen Caleb was not interested in learning these never-ending fixes his dad taught him every weekend. "Dad, why can't we just hire carpenters for this thing? It's so tiring and boring," Caleb sulked, and William chuckled as he plucked another plank out. "Chap, if we start hiring people for this petty stuff that we can accomplish ourselves, we're gonna become lazy, and we'll go to rags, like your Uncle Dexter." Caleb rolled his eyes. "Yeah, whatever." He climbed up the attic, and just as he removed one of the planks on the floor, he noticed a weathered piece of paper under it. Curiosity got the better of Caleb as he picked it up. He realized it was a crumpled photograph of a baby and a woman. Caleb's eyes widened in disbelief as he flipped it. "Baby Caleb with mommy, smiley face," read the inscription behind it, sending chills down Caleb's spine. The woman in the photo didn't look like his mother, Olivia, and she bore an ugly oval-shaped scar on her left arm Olivia didn't have. "Dad." Caleb rushed over to William. "Who is she? Why am I with a strange woman who, according to this picture, is my mom?" William turned to see Caleb holding the photograph he couldn't fail to recognize. "Oh, Caleb," he dropped the claw hammer. "There's something you need to know." William grabbed a beer from the fridge and sat across from Caleb at the kitchen counter. "Trust me, all my life, I've only wanted the best for you, son," he said, sipping the drink. "I wanted you to be happy, to give you the best of everything. My wife Olivia and we both did." "Your wife, that means Olivia isn't my mother, right?" Caleb asked disappointedly. Yes, son, I'm sorry. I will explain everything to you, William started, but Caleb cut him off. What happened to my mom, Dad? It was a car accident, William sighed, barely looking his son in the eyes. Nobody's fault, boy. You needed a mother, and I moved on with Olivia not because I wanted a wife, but because I thought she'd love you like Sarah. Your mother. Caleb's eyes welled up, and the truth left him shaken. But he took the news like a grown boy. He asked William to take him to Sarah's grave the next day, and William fulfilled his son's request. Caleb remained strong throughout the car ride to the cemetery, but could no longer hold back his tears as he saw his late mother's overgrown grave. Hey, Mom, he whispered, gently running his fingers over her engraved name. William let Caleb spend the entire day with Sarah, and the young boy sat beside her, telling her everything that had happened in his life in her absence. A loud honk jolted Caleb to the moment. He drove away from the signal to the hospital, where he underwent the DNA test and paid for the express option. So what is the last thing you remember from your past? He asked Michelle while they waited for the results. The older woman pursed her lips. The woods, she said. A woodcutter found me floating in the river. Then a hospital, where doctors said I have amnesia. Caleb nodded, thinking carefully when a nurse approached them. Mr. Anderson? Yes, he looked up. Your results are here. She handed him a file and walked away. Caleb's heart raced in his chest as he opened the file. Then the words maternity rate, 99.9% stared back at him. Michelle, you're my mother. Oh God. Michelle trembled as Caleb threw himself into her arms and cried. Oh, Mom. He whispered. I found you. But Dad, I can't believe he lied to me my whole life, he said, pulling away from her. We need to get to the bottom of this, Mom. I have a plan. Let's go. An hour later, Caleb and Michelle were looking out the car window from across William's mansion. You remember what you're supposed to do, right? He asked Michelle as she stepped out of the car. She nodded, walked up to William's front door, and knocked. Good evening, she greeted William, and the man turned pale. Jennifer? I'm sorry, you might have mistaken me for someone else. I have amnesia, and I don't remember my past, to be precise. By the way, I'm from Mayflower Cosmetics. I wanted to offer your wife a gift set. I'm Michelle, she replied with a broad smile. William relaxed a little. William, he said, shaking her hands. And his eyes ran to the scar on her arm. Well, Michelle, I'm guessing you have products for men. My wife's not home. I could fix you a coffee in the meantime? Oh yes, that works, she replied, and William let her in. As Michelle washed her hands before showing him the cosmetics, William kept asking about her past, how long she'd lived in the city, about her family. Michelle bravely answered she'd only lived in the town for 2 weeks and had no family. Can I turn on the light? It's dark here, she asked as she dried her hands entering the kitchen. But before William would answer, she opened the kitchen cabinet by the door and flicked the light switch. I must say you've got great intuition. None of the guests could find the switch until we told them where it was. Michelle's blood drained from her face. I don't understand how it happened. Well, this place looks familiar for some reason. Sorry, I don't feel great. I'll better leave. Michelle exited the front door and entered a cheap old car parked outside. By the time William made it out, she had left. I thought I opened the wrong cabinet, but thank goodness I found the switch, she told Caleb on the phone while driving. Don't worry, Mom. Just do as I said, okay? We'll unravel the truth tonight, he told her and hung up. That day, at 3 a.m., Caleb sat in a car he had borrowed from a friend and quietly waited across the road from Michelle's house. Suddenly, bright headlights illuminated the stillness of the street, and Caleb saw his dad's car pull up in front of Michelle's gate. In the dimly lit night, William cautiously crept into the secluded backyard of Michelle's house. Then he climbed the pipeline leading to the balcony and squeezed his way through the open window. As he slipped into the bedroom, the soft glow of the moonlight illuminated the silhouette of Michelle lying on the bed. A heavy gasp escaped William's lips as he pulled out a glimmering Bowie knife from his leather jacket and quietly approached the bedside. Aiming for the stomach and chest, William stabbed the figure several times. Suddenly, the bedroom door slammed open and the lights turned on. "You're under arrest," two police officers burst into the bedroom with handcuffs. And Michelle accompanied them, much to William's shock. "Mr. Anderson, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law." The sheriff cuffed William and escorted him to the police station. Sitting in the interrogation room, William had no choice but to confess his crimes. He admitted Jennifer had found out about his affair with his secretary, Olivia. So during a family picnic in the woods, William pushed Jennifer off a cliff. He wanted to protect his reputation and avoid paying alimony and property after the divorce, so he tried to get rid of her. But he had no idea she had survived the fall.